Out of all of the possible scenarios for who would be playing in the college football playoff semifinals, at least the realistic ones, I think this has to be one of the most unlikely, as the number 6 seeded Ole Miss Rebels are going to be facing the number 10 seeded Miami Hurricanes. This is going to be a really fun matchup, and it's the reason why we wanted college football playoff expansion. This isn't a matchup we would have gotten prior to this. And now these teams are going to have a chance to make the national championship game. Today, we're going to be talking about both of these teams, what they are doing right going into this matchup, and ultimately giving my prediction on who I think will make the Natty. But before we get into it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton and lets me know you guys are enjoying the videos. Comment down below who you guys think is going to win this game. What are some of the key matchups that you are looking for? But let's go ahead and kick this off, starting off with the higher seed as we usually do in Ole Miss, because I don't think anybody expected this from Ole Miss. After losing Lane Kiffin, there were a lot of question marks on what was this Ole Miss team going to look like. Was Pete Golding going to be the right man for the job? And over the first two games, this is a team that is playing with a chip on their shoulder, and they have something to prove to the college football world that they belong here, and it's not just because of Lane Kiffin. And I think it starts with their quarterback. Trinidad Chambliss against Georgia put on one of the best performances I have seen any quarterback play all season long. He was phenomenal all night, went 30 of 46 for 362 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and some of the throws that he was making down the field with touch, throwing with timing, attacking press coverage. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal. And this is an Ole Miss team that, yes, they have the offensive play calling that they had prior to this, but Trinidad Chambliss is playing some excellent football and is looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. And he has been for really since the South Carolina game. Since then, he has been on fire. And we saw it again against a really good Georgia defense. But this is a team that is moving the ball in a lot of different ways. They're still rushing the ball very well. Kewan Lacey is healthy, and he had a really good game against Georgia as well, where he had 98 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. There were some questions going into this matchup about his health, but he looked good and still performed at a really high level. And I think the weapons are stepping up for Ole Miss in a lot of ways. Dejon Stribling, Trey Wallace, this team is getting the most out of a group of weapons that coming into the year, we didn't necessarily see them as one of the stronger groups, but they are stepping up in a big way and making plays. And this offense is looking like they haven't missed a beat despite missing their elite head coach. On the other side, though, I think the defense is playing well. There are going to be still some question marks around, is this team going to be good enough to stop the passing attack? They had some issues, and I thought they had some issues in the ground game, but when it matters most, this team's able to get pressure. They've got multiple guys that can get after the quarterback from a variety of different positions on the field, and I think that makes them a really hard team to try and score against. I know Georgia put up 34 points, but this is a good defense that I think is playing really solid football right now. And I'm excited to see what they look like against a Miami team. But if there is a question mark, it is still the secondary. They were a lot of busted coverages, a lot of open guys across the middle of the field that I think Ole Miss is going to have to clean that up if they are going to beat a Miami team that right now might be the hottest team in the country, if we're being completely honest. They have been phenomenal. They absolutely dominated Texas A&M in the trenches. And then against Ohio State, a matchup where they were the underdogs. Not many people expected them to win that game. They played really well, and I think Carson Beck deserves some credit. He was really efficient in this game. No, he isn't going to be making a lot of these big throws. His average depth of target was just 7.4 yards, but he's making the right throws. He's not turning the ball over. He hasn't had a turnover in the playoffs so far. And he's been pretty accurate with the football, completing around 71.5% of his passes, which is a very good number. There's a lot to like about what you're seeing from Carson Beck, but he's not the reason they're winning these games. It is the supporting cast around him. The offensive line for Miami looks phenomenal. Francis Mauigoa and Markel Bell, the 2 tackles for Miami, are playing elite football right now. And then the weapons are all stepping up in big ways. Mark Fletcher has been probably the best individual player throughout the playoffs so far. 172 yards against A&M, 90 yards against Ohio State. He has been fantastic as a power runner. And then this receiving core, they just got dudes. Malachi Toney's making plays for them. CJ Daniels is making plays for them. This is a well-rounded group here of Miami that is dominating in the trenches. And that gets us to what has been by far the most impressive part about this Miami team, and it is what they are doing on the defensive side of the football. Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor are the scariest duo in college football right now, and I don't think any team wants to face them. Both of them combined for 22 sacks and 132 pressures this season, which is a absolutely ridiculous number. Bain gets a lot of the attention, but what Mesidor has been able to do throughout these first two playoff games has been phenomenal. He's got 16 pressures and 3 sacks in 2 games. On top of that, their run defense has been fantastic with Keontae Scott back in the mix. Up front, guys like Ahmad Moten is playing really good football for them right now. This is a defense that is forcing turnovers. They're really physical. They're making plays, and they're not allowing teams to run the ball. Ohio State did not run the ball particularly well in their first matchup, or in the matchup that they just played in, I should say. And A&M really struggled to move the ball on the ground as well. Their run defense has been really, really good over the last couple of weeks. And I think in this game against Ole Miss, that is going to be imperative. And I think it is going to be the biggest X factor. Can Miami continue to be elite against the run? They have been throughout the first 2 weeks, but Kewan Lacey has been one of the best running backs in all of college football this season. We talked about the stats. He led the SEC in rushing. This is a better running back than the guys that they have faced up to this point, and it's a big test for this Miami defensive front. Now, what I will say, I do think on the Ole Miss side of things, this is probably going to be their toughest task in terms of pass blocking. They have given up some pressures at times, and Chambliss was running around for his life behind that offensive line at times. Jaden Williams and Diego Pounds have both allowed more than 15 pressures on the season, and so that could be a potential weakness in this game, especially when you are going up against this pass rush duo. I think this is a really fun matchup. I think both of these teams have a lot to prove, but if I have to make a prediction on who I think is going to win this game, right now, I trust the trench play of Miami just a little bit more. I doubted them against Texas A&M. I doubted them against Ohio State, but I don't think I can do it again here against Ole Miss because this team is playing such a physical brand of football. They're stopping the run really well, and they are getting after the quarterback at such an elite rate. I don't know if I've seen a team with this type of a pass rush duo in the playoffs dominate the way that Bain and Mesidor have. And I think their secondary can really shut down some of these boundary weapons that Ole Miss has right now. And I'm going to take Miami to win this game. Now, I do think this is going to be a nail-biter. I think this is going to be a 24-20 victory for Miami. But I think Miami is going to make the national championship game back in their home stadium. And I'm excited to see how this one plays out.